Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Christmas Specialty Foods on Highland Road across from Rufino's. Welcome to the Monday edition of Live at Lunch. 145 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Jimmy Ott, Max Gotro. Jordan Kitch is back in the studio. Troy Macker with us later on this hour. Glad that you're with us on a nice day here. Got some cooler temperatures. It's good. Feels good outside. Jimmy, how you guys doing?
Great, man. How about the weather?
Really, really enjoyed the weather. Got to spend a decent amount of time outside, especially yesterday, watching a lot of sports, but being able to do it and enjoy the weather at the same time. And look, if you this weekend for LSU athletics, about as busy a weekend as you'll ever see between the gymnastics playing for the national championship, in competing for the national championship on Saturday. The LSU baseball team and softball teams both with 3-game sets. The softball team sweeps. The baseball team gets swept. The men's and women's tennis teams make deep runs at the SECs. You had plenty to keep you occupied if you were watching. Even beach volleyball finished up their regular season. So you had a ton of LSU stuff going on this weekend. It was just pick the one you were most moved by, or pick a few of them, because there was a lot of stuff to get to. We watched a little bit of the golf yesterday. You watched. I watched some of the NBA playoffs. I know you watched probably more than I did with that. So we got a lot to get to.
It's a spring semester, man. You know, and so you had a great golf tournament too. I mean,
Fitzpatrick in a playoff.
Fitzpatrick and Hovland, man, blistering through the first 2 days, and then they just are throwing up on themselves. The back nine, Hovland continues to throw up, and Fitzpatrick rights the ship, man, and finishes strong. Eagle down the stretch, so he's got a three-stroke lead over Scheffler, and game on. And he just held him at arm's length until the very end. Kind of safe. 14 straight pars.
Yeah.
And then he bogeys the final one to open the door for Scheffler. So, of course, Scheffler's going to win in the playoff, right? Nope. What a shot by Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, the second shot.
He shot second first. He hit first, so Scheffler was a little longer. And, he nailed it and put pressure on the big boy. Put pressure on number one and forced a really poor shot by Scheffler.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching that. And I missed most of the point where he was dragging his feet. I got a little bit slow play. They were over Fitzpatrick.
Kind of what he does, huh, Max?
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick playing slow?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no. That's right. Yeah, but remember I even said
he plays fast.
If anything, he got
he gets
up and
agitated by slow play.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. They were complaining about him. He took like 6 minutes.
Who
to
is
take
they?
The media. They said the fans were giving him crap.
The fans were being pro-America, pro-U.S., pro-Scheffler, and turned it into they're still trying to carry over
it's
some
egregious.
of this Ryder Cup. He was asked about it after they didn't get He said, "Look, as long as I grew up watching soccer, football. I mean, if they don't." I'm fine with it, and to win with that is even better. But it was noticeable.
I mean, he's
was
won there at the Heritage. He went. They tell it every year about how his family vacationed at Harbor Town every year, and he's always got the lighthouse, the famous lighthouse, as like a head cover on his bag. I didn't like that too much. I get America. You're going to root for your own.
It's a reach at just getting your ass kicked in New York.
Sure, and
I mean it's come on, man.
Am I surprised that a fan base was rooting for Scotty? No, not at all. Scotty is the more popular player, but to cheer when he bogeys the last hole, it seemed a little bit unnecessary.
His layup on 15 was the one that they were getting on him about yesterday. It apparently took him 4 minutes to hit a layup on 15. At any rate,
one of 200 shots.
Yeah, well,
if anything, he was criticized for playing too quickly on the last hole where he chipped and really poorly and made bogey. So he's not a slow player. Maybe
living
that
proof
was
he
one.
can't make everybody happy.
Charlie and I were watching it together. Actually, I said, "Man, he didn't take any time."
No, he plays quick.
At the end.
He's agitated with slow play frequently.
The gymnastics championship on Saturday is kind of where I wanted to start. LSU comes up just an eyelash short of Oklahoma, coming in with really a terrific score. 198-075 is going to win you a lot of meets. And it was, okay, so first of all, in the semifinals, LSU had to come from behind in the final rotation to make it to the finals. This time, LSU went to the final rotation with the lead over Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a fall on the beam. They had to count a 9-7, and LSU went to the beam with an opportunity to win the national title. And they came up just a little bit short. They had a fall on number 2, but they came back very strong. And by the time it got to the last competitor, it was Kaylin Chio. Best gymnast in the country. I could certainly make an argument. And she had to be perfect on her last 998. She basically had to be perfect for LSU to win it. And the reason that she was going last after the floor is because there was a disputed score on the first gymnast that competed for LSU on the beam. Chio had a really nice routine. She did a 990. Came up just a little bit short. But listen to Jay Clark after, and Jimmy, he was nice enough to come on with us on Friday and talked about their preparation and all those things. And he says, basically they competed as hard as they could. They were focused. They were challenged. They did everything they could, and Oklahoma just came up a little bit better. And this is 4 times now that LSU has, over the years, fallen in second place to Oklahoma's national champion. I couldn't help but think that it reminded me an awful lot of some of the LSU football games against Alabama when Miles and Saban were the coaches. The 2008 game, the 2012 game, the 2014 game, all LSU was just right there. Played as well as you can expect against a team that's that good, and came up just a little bit short. And that's kind of how I felt watching them. I felt the same way Clark did. He says, and don't blame the fall on the last one. He says you can find a tenth of a point pretty much anywhere. And kind of like those football games, it came down to one play here, one play there. This one came down to 1/10 of a point. And
Jay's the best. He is,
fantastic.
And look, in sort of a blanket statement, but whenever in the athletics, and I try and tell young parents, youth parents to applaud effort, not results. And trying your best doesn't start, on game day, on meet day.
Yeah.
It starts in preparation. So you prepare, and then you compete, and you try your best, and you live with the results. It's hard sometimes to digest that. And we've all seen the videos, probably most of us have, of Jay kind of explaining that to his team. What the heck? So proud of you. Hell of a run. I hear you with the close calls at Alabama. I would strongly disagree as far as those games had a clear bench advantage with Saban over Miles.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, so that's not the case here.
No,
that's not.
The coaching is
so these are 2 heavyweights that are going at it, and where one little flinch, it's what makes it. It's what makes it appealing. That there's very little room for error. And I was watching a replay late that night, knowing the result already, and I was hearing the broadcasters kind of talk about as they're going in the last cycle, kind of like, well, it's not over yet. LSU doesn't want to start celebrating it like Like the thing was in the bag almost.
Yeah, who would have thought that they had it in the bag? I know they didn't think that.
Yeah,
I mean, you
so
gotta go to
why?
Beam.
But I mean, these are people that do this. I mean,
Yeah.
they would know certainly more than me, huh? So I don't know. I don't know enough to know that. You know, this might have been a stronger, the event than Oklahoma might have had a more favorable event the last cycle, whatever it is. So, but I was just like, wait a minute, I know the result already. I know Oklahoma wins, and they're just like, it was interesting watching it, knowing the result already.
And I'm not in the business of critiquing gymnastics announcers because
Yeah,
my knowledge of the sport is pretty limited. But what caught my attention was earlier in the meet when Oklahoma was leading, LSU was in second place, and Florida was in third. And Florida came in so hot, having won the SEC tournament in Oklahoma and having won, so convincingly on Thursday in the semifinals. They're talking about Florida in third place. Well, Florida's got to do this and this, but they're not out of it. They can make it. I'm like, hang on, there's a team in second place that is a lot closer than Florida. And, of course, LSU did take the lead after a phenomenal routine on the bars. And Oklahoma, like I said, had that fall. So they took the lead to the final rotation. Another great year for them, a national runner-up. Is certainly something to be proud of. Wasn't what they wanted. They wanted obviously to win the title, but they came up just a little bit short. But it's a fun sport to watch. I've just gotten into it. The last however many years. It's fast paced. It's as nerve-wracking as anything you watch because just the slightest. I mean, I got nervous watching those girls on the beam, thinking just the slightest. The thing's 4 inches wide. So if you come off of it just a little bit. Anyway, enjoyed watching it. Was hoping that they would come up with 1 more tenth of a point or 2 more tenths of a point, but they come up just a little bit short. It was one of, like I said, a lot of events for LSU this weekend, some good, some bad. Jimmy, the tennis was one of the best, and kind of like the gymnastics, came down to the very end for the ladies in their quest for an SEC championship.
4 straight ranked wins for the women, 2 straight top 4 wins, and then the LSU Auburn SEC championship came down to 2 bench players. And you play 3 courts for 1 doubles point and then 6 singles courts. LSU coming in, LSU had a real matchup advantage over the projected number 6 player for Auburn. And so LSU, put in their, in their sub. And, Auburn subbed as well. And it came down to that court. So 3 courts apiece, court 6. Two players that are, not always in the lineup, deciding the SEC championship when you had so much high-level stuff. The women have been sharing their roster a little bit through times this year, so maybe underachieving a little bit because they were expected to be. But they had their whole roster this past weekend for the SEC championship game. Could it be rocking right on the door? Do you want to try and get the top 8? I think they're going to just miss at 9 for their seed. It's 16 4-team regionals. LSU, the men, are expected to be number 7 seed. They had a hell of a run. Danny Bryan and his team, beat Georgia for the first time since 1999.
Don't gloss over that because that's unreal how good Georgia's program has been over the years. And they were the number 1 seed in this thing, and LSU beat them soundly. On Saturday.
They've dumped more money into their facility for like the second time in recent history. So they're all in. That's their gymnastics. LSU's gymnastics. That's a tough facility to match. So they to do that, and they're right there with State and could have gone either way. It was back and forth. They had a chance to win the doubles point. They just missed on that. They lost the doubles point 7-5. It's just a single set. They had a 3-1 lead on the last score. It had a good start, had a rain delay, which kind of it's hard to convince or hard to prove, but things were going their way when the weather delay came, and State came back and got them. So, they win it, but they should be hosting, and then it's just like baseball, 16 4-team regionals, and then 8 dual matches, basically, 8 different sites. So you want to be that top 8, and we'll see. But they will be hosting. Both will be hosting Derby weekend. So the first of May. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. So tremendous showing for both the men and women's tennis team. And I've been out there too. Yeah, I strongly encourage to go check it out. This they're just like every other sport. They're holding on to college players more in football and basketball and baseball and tennis. Same thing. The level of play has really gone up, and it's got a big-time international. I was talking to a tennis buddy of mine over the weekend as well, and the thing to keep in mind that sometimes in our country, tennis can be a little country club sport, and so you want trying to, the better athletes are trying to, football, basketball, baseball, kind of that's where the money is. The European players, this is kind of their ticket out, a lot of them. So they just kind of got a little bit more grit. A little bit. It's not like this soft European tennis type of deal. So it's you look at the rosters; they're flooded in college tennis. I think LSU's got one player from Virginia on the men's team, and everybody else is from Mallorca to Belarus. So
we're here at Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Man, Jazz Fest weekend. So the next 2 weekends down at the fairgrounds, check out the Chris's Special by the main stage. Be doing the pork and chicken crackling. So it's we've done it before from Chris's Specialty Foods. But if you are partaking down at Jazz Fest, look for us. Look for us over here. We like and Chef does the burgers and po' boys and the different plate lunches over here. But we do daily specials as well. So check this one out. The Wagyu hot dog with homemade cheddar and jalapeno peppers served with our homemade chips. That's our daily special today. Tomorrow will be a smoked turkey pot pie on Tuesday. Wednesday, the chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and country gravy. Thursday, the smothered chicken, rice, and gravy with corn mac choux. And then Friday, our lobster fado dough, New England-style roll served cold, the herb butter roll served cold, or a lobster grilled cheese. So that's in addition to our regular lunch menu. Serve lunch Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. over here at Chris's Specialty Foods. So we're open at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday till 6 p.m. As far as the market and things like that. It's grilling season. Well, how about this weather? You got to get the grill on. So tons of things to throw on your grill, from chicken, pork, homemade sausages, seasoned or unseasoned steaks of all different cuts. The ribeye patties for burgers, beef, game, seafood, all kinds of different sides as well. We do want to announce, though, also, this past Friday was our last crawfish boil over here. So crawfish boils on Friday night here at Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road is done for the season.
Live at Chris's Specialty Food, live at Lunch 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com. LouisianaSports.net will be dropping a new Handycast this afternoon on YouTube covering LSU baseball. It's brought to you by Supreme Rice, celebrating 90 years in business here in 2026. Supporting our Louisiana farmers, go to SupremeRice.com. LSU baseball swept over the weekend by A&M. They've been swept now consecutive weekends, fall to 6-12 in SEC play. It's the first time they've had back-to-back sweeps in SEC play since 2021. There's not a lot that you can say about the actual games this weekend other than LSU was dominated. Texas A&M never trailed in this series. They were in complete control of all of these games. LSU put together a little bit of a rally late yesterday, but for the weekend, 4 runs on Friday, 2 runs on Saturday, and 2 runs on Sunday. That's not enough offense. The bullpen did fairly well, but most of these games, A&M was in such control of them, you have to wonder exactly how much you can put into individual performances of bullpen guys who were coming in and just hoping that they could hold a rope until LSU's offense got going, which it never did. Defensively, again, you didn't have as many errors this weekend, but there were, some instances on Friday night again where just another block of a ball would have made
Live
a little bit of
lunch.
look out! Would have made enough of a difference. LSU leads the league in wild pitches. They lead the league in pass balls, and they have only been exceeded in the number of errors by Florida in SEC play. So that's a pretty tough way for the pitchers to fly. But none of that was the story of the weekend, in my opinion. The story of the weekend was Jay Johnson on Friday night when he was incredibly candid about his assessment of how he had put this team together and how things have gone. This is the quote. I made some mistakes in constructing the team and trying to replace two guys that were irreplaceable, where we should have looked at replacing them through guys who were already in the program and then replace the guys that were athletic and could play defense and be more complete players. Okay, we won't make that mistake again. The power moving forward will be from players that start their career here and develop it like Jake Brown has. So that's a mouthful from a coach who is anything but controversial, anything but bombastic or using hyperbole, does not speak to his team through the media the way some other coaches do. Not that I'm critical of that, but he is not known for doing that. Maybe the most controversial thing that Johnson's done in his 4 years here is have weather delays that are a little bit lengthy, or maybe starting Paul Skeens against Tulane. But he is not a coach that is overly demonstrative in his comments about his team. Most of the time it's highly complimentary stuff or, reasonable dissertations about what they've done. This was a mouthful for him. And coming after Game 16, when there was 14 left in the SEC, just gives you how much of an indication of how frustrated he is. He talked about, a couple of different things. But when he said, I'll tell you how I took this, Jimmy, you can weigh in on this. He said, we tried to replace two players who were irreplaceable. Now, when I first heard him, as soon as that came out of his mouth, I thought he's talking about Anderson and Ianson, the two hammers up at the top of the rotation last year. They're the best 1-2 punch in the country.
Two most important guys on the team.
What's that?
Two most important guys on the team last year, huh?
Yes, but when he kept into the quote and he said, we will replace the power moving forward that players that start their career here and develop into it, I thought maybe he's talking more
Position
about
players.
Jared Jones and Ethan Fry, who were the two big Thunderbats in the lineup last year. And, you look at a guy like Ashton Larson, who is tearing it up for Texas. If you want to go back an extra year with Brady Neal, who is having an excellent year at Alabama, there are some players that transferred out that, okay, did they just say, hey, we're leaving, or was it an NIL dispute or playing time or whatever? But those are guys that developed a little bit later, didn't exactly – got shoved in there, especially Neal as a freshman. He says, hey, listen, we're not getting this kind of production out of the guys that we brought in. And then the second thing about it would be, obviously they did not put a premium on defense. Even if York and Simpson and Dardar had come in and Caraway had played excellent at the plate, had all hit, none of them are anywhere near the type of gloves that they had at those positions last year. And you knew there was going to be a drop-off. That last year's defense was so good. But you're having this in the midst of a shortstop who's having the best defensive year in the history of LSU, in my opinion, and three other infielders in a catching situation that is completely broken down on the pitching staff. And the pitching hasn't been great. The aces have not, picked up where those two guys did last year, for sure. But I wonder how much better off they would be if LSU had played just middle-of-the-pack defense behind the plate and on the infield.
It'd still be not living up to expectations. I mean, this thing is
no. They wouldn't be number one in the country like they were, one or two in the country like they were before the season.
Not even like this team's got no chance to go to. I mean, we'll never say never, but I mean, they're likely going to finish so far out of contention for even a bid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where this thing is headed. to me, roster building is risk. Roster building is gambling. And this is a classic Monday morning handicap, Buck J. Johnson. Mm-hmm. How many people cover college baseball knew his roster come in, put him number one in the country?
Almost everybody.
Almost
everybody.
I mean, should he have done it this way he's saying now for this year? Of course. Well, you can see the results now.
Yeah, it's an easy handicap at the end of April,
I
right?
can tell you who's going to win every game in the NFL on Monday morning.
Right.
But it doesn't work like that. But it doesn't. And maybe he's emotional too because because no matter how much he missed on the roster, they're not playing well, and they haven't played well, and it's been pitiful. I mean, this is a record type of record with a pitiful non-conference schedule. I mean, pitiful, and they're still rivaling one of the worst records in history. In modern history. The Bertman era on. I don't want him to, just don't completely knee jerk and overreact because you missed on transfers. Still has to be a blend. You still have to try and calculate. Still, you take a guy that is ripping it up at a low level, and how is it going to translate to the SEC? That's $1 million question. I mean, how many guys had part of that Indiana championship that did that?
Yeah.
How about the best quarterback in college football this year? I'm sorry, Mendoza, you got the Heisman, but this is at Ole Miss. Okay, that guy did it at a lower level, right? So you don't want to be – I understand it didn't work this time. He should have done it the other way this time. But I don't want to limit him with a guy with all his resources. I mean, how many scouts did we hear say, it's all for second now with this guy, with the way he's got things going. So he missed, but – all transfers are not created equally, and he's going to hit some guys. I mean, Paul Skeens hit at a low level.
Yeah, and
okay.
I'll give you one more recently because Skeens is such a
we know that, but still, you didn't expect that.
Last year, they got Daniel Dickinson from Utah Valley, okay, very small program, came in and had a phenomenal year.
There you go.
He brought Zach York in from Grand Canyon, who had been. Look, everybody said, well, you knew a guy could play defense. The guy made 5 errors in 3 years, okay? He was not a liability at Grand Canyon that I can say, at least in the box score. So, no, it's not just about
UAB won. Michigan won with the best player coming from UAB. The year before, Florida won a national championship in basketball. The best player coming from Iona.
Anthony Einstein came from San Diego. He didn't come from Texas.
Yes. So you don't want to, he's emotional.
Yeah.
He's very upset. He should. He's earned the right. I mean, I get it, but I don't want to go, listen, we got to do it all the other way. No, you don't want to limit yourself in roster building.
And he's got to make decisions, just like all these NFL teams got to make a decision of where you're going to put your resources. Your first-round picks at this position, well, that means that, another position's not going to get a first-round pick. Does he want to put more money in the starting pitching? Does he want to put more money in the defense? That's up to him. And he said, we want to look at the way we're doing things in the fall. He talked about his strength and conditioning program. And I get all that, and he should. He should do an evaluation every year. The strength and conditioning program was the same, as when they won the national title. And, the non-conference schedule, which he should reevaluate. I agree with you on that. But it's not terribly different from what they had last year, and they won the damn thing. So there's no cure-all. He's got to look at everything.
But do you expect him to go knee-jerk and not be as aggressive in the transfer portal?
I don't know. It kind of depends on what's available to him. Do you feel comfortable putting more money into starting pitching when you expect Evans and Schmidt to be back next year and be back at the head of that rotation? Neither one of them, they both have SEC ERAs over 5, so they haven't performed as well, but they're both still big-time prospects. Are they a year away from, being really headliner guys? Or do you go back and you say, listen, I got these two guys. They took their lumps this year. I'm going to put the best defense behind them. And that's where I'm going to put a little bit more of my money. I don't know. Those are decisions No. Just that.
Well, if you're prioritizing fielding, I mean, you're taking away from hitting.
If Milam doesn't come back, he's got to go. He's got to go find that balance. like you said.
Yes.
And if Milan doesn't come back, you got to go replace the best defensive shortstop.
And the players available in the portal or on your roster are going to alter every year. Yeah. Some years you're going to have guys you're comfortable with, and they just need another year of development. Well, that's the tricky part. That's the talent evaluation when it's draft week, huh?
It's draft
so I mean, but to say just to slam one side of it is just he's smarter than that.
And I just
think he was emotional.
And
so I mean, you need to exercise your resources when you have elite resources like LSU baseball does. Don't limit yourself.
And we know the guy's working. And listen, just a one-year example. Last year at this time, A&M had been preseason number one, was struggling to get back into it, was trying to put together a late run. A year later, they're a top 8 national seed.
Does Mississippi State, Texas, and Arkansas want to see him quiet down in the portal?
Yeah, they wish.
Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings. 296-0060, full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Our great team at Legacy Title, Ashley Donald, Adrian Galata, Michael Platt, Mariana Haynes, Natalie and Bradford Smith. Buying, building, refinancing. Nobody chooses but you. Choose Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title, 296-0060.
Live at Chris's Specialty Foods, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
And return here at Chris's Live at lunch. We're going to swap our schedule up here a little bit, see if we can hook up with Troy Macker a little bit later on in the show. In the meantime, the NFL Draft is 3 days away. Max, you've been reading a whole bunch of stuff. I've been reading a whole bunch of stuff. Jimmy's been reading a whole bunch of stuff. What you came here armed with a notebook full of mock drafts today. What's going on?
Yeah, well, we got a lot of news from the weekend. A lot of teams talking over the weekend to some of these insiders, I guess. One of the things is Adam Schefter's reporting that the Cardinals, if they aren't able to trade back out of the third pick, which they definitely want to, it seems like, trade back, they need help on the offensive line. Third is a little bit early for an offensive tackle, although they could end up taking Francis Muaga there. That they would take Jeremiah Love with the third pick. I tend to think that's a little bit of smoke, that they're trying to get rid of the pick. They're throwing that out there, and the Titans would probably take Love at 4. That's Todd McShay reported that if not third, he would go 4th to the Titans. So that seems to be the floor for him. I'm not really buying that the Cardinals, who just signed Tyler Algier in the offseason, would be bringing in Jeremiah Love as well with the third pick.
The Cardinals sometimes throw some curveballs in these drafts. It's an understatement, just a little bit. I would think the offensive, if they have to stay with the pick, the offensive lineman from Miami makes more sense to them. And then the other thing with the Cardinals is if they're going to make a trade, is it going to involve them getting back into the first round from their high pick in the second round so that they can take a quarterback, presumably Ty Simpson? So I could see that going a couple of different ways other than Love. But the most intriguing thing is if Kansas City was a team that was making that move up from 9 to 3. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs haven't drafted this high since they took Mahomes in the top 10. And you can imagine how scary it would be to have Mahomes have a weapon of that caliber out of the backfield. Be probably the best.
It's protection of weapons, from Mahomes. They've discussed a lot. They just give up on their cornerback. They let their cornerbacks, who've been really big for them, let them go year and year.
And early in the season, you're going to need a heavier workload on the running game with him coming off a bad knee injury.
We
don't even know if he's ready to start the year.
He may not. Saints at 8. What's your best read? I want to see how it compares with mine.
I haven't heard a ton of news. I will say I've heard a lot of Jordan Tyson talk there. If Carnell Tate's not available, that they would go Jordan Tyson. And I just don't really buy it. He had the workout on Friday. I certainly wasn't there, so I can't tell you how it went. But it just seems too early. And it's actually Todd McShay mentioned that he felt like this was some good agent work from Jordan Tyson, that there was some smoke and that he'll probably go somewhere in the middle of the teens actually, rather than some of the hype that he's gotten over the last week where they're talking about him being a top 10 pick to perhaps the Saints at 8 or the Chiefs at 9. I think it's too early. So I think it's still defense. I think Bain will be available at 8. I don't think Styles or Bailey will make it down there. So I think you've got a choice between Delane or Reuben Bain.
Delane and Bain. That to me has been the coin flip over probably the last 2 weeks. If we believe that the top 7, maybe not in the order, we don't know, but the top 7, we feel like we got a pretty good handle on. Mendoza's going to go 1. Reese and Bailey, the top 2 pass rushers in the draft, are going to go in the top 5 or 6. We feel like Love's going to go there. We feel like Styles is going to go in the top 7, maybe to the Giants at 5. The Giants picked up another top 10 pick this weekend in trading Dexter Lawrence to Cincinnati. And then the other one would be Francis Mayoga from Miami, the offensive lineman. If that's the way it goes, then it's Bain, it's Delane, maybe Caleb Downs if you feel that strongly.
Well, you did mention Carnell Tate as well. He could fall to 8. That seems a little bit more likely than I originally realized because, according to the draft, the odds over under 7.5 is like a pick'em. So he is like a pick'em to actually make it to 8 for the Saints, and I think that would be a little bit more intriguing for the Saints to take likely the number 1 receiver in this class, pretty much universally it seems like.
Who's considering in the top 7? Who's considering besides the Giants?
The Browns at 6. They need a receiver help.
Yeah,
now there's rumors about them trying to trade back. I actually did a Cleveland
local
show
guy. Yeah, that's
morning,
kind of
that they're trying to trade back out of that. They need some offensive line help, maybe a little bit early there. It's just there's a lot of defensive guys in that sort of 6 to 8 range, and the Browns, they don't really need defense, right? That's the one thing they're pretty damn good at. So it would maybe be a reach. I mean, it's a local Ohio State product in Cleveland.
I think he checks out, but I mean, the film. You invested in a top 10 pick on a number 1 receiver who hadn't been a number 1 receiver in college, who hasn't faced number 1 coverages.
Yeah, that's what scares me about him.
Well, I mean,
there's always been that stud on the other side.
Don't you have, when you're investing in a top 10 pick, a better read on that coming out? Now, we've seen it. We've seen it where some guys, Justin Jefferson was pretty good number 2.
That worked out really well for Minnesota.
Okay.
Worked out really well for Minnesota. I find surprising when you read some of this draft intel stuff is there's 2 statements that seem to be universal, but to me they're contradicting. Number 1 is that the scouts don't think that this is a particularly strong draft up at the top of the first round. But then the second thing they tell you is that there are way more teams looking to trade down than to trade up.
That's usually the case, but you got to find a dance partner.
Well, and so if you thought that the top half of the first round was suspect and there weren't a lot of guys that really had first-round grades. Like, you don't have 32 guys with first-round grades. You've got maybe 2/3 of that. Wouldn't you be looking to trade up to get one of the guys that does have a true first-round grade?
Well, to me, it's shallow.
I hate trading up.
It's shallow at the very top.
Yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 guys, and then it's everyone else, and there's just not a big gap between, say, 12 and 26. I think that's why you're seeing teams who would rather look if they're not going to get one of the top elite almost sure things, you'd rather just get a guy who's at a positional need who's later in the draft.
The other question I would ask is, do we feel that way because there's only one quarterback that's guaranteed to go in the first round? It's going to go at the top, because a lot of times you'll see these quarterbacks go up higher than a normal player would, and it pushes some of the other talent down. A lot of people did not have Michael Penix rated as high as he went in the draft, nor Bo Nix that year, nor J.J. McCarthy. That pushed other position players down.
I think you're getting to the right side of things. I wouldn't just look at quarterback. I think you've got 2 edge rushers.
So yeah, true. I mean,
But look at the names at the top. Look at the names who seem to be sure things. Jeremiah Love, a running back. Sonny Styles, a linebacker. Caleb Downs, who is well thought of, but he's a safety. Those are guys who are not premium positions in drafts. So that's the difference. It's the edge guys, it's the offensive tackles, it's the quarterbacks who, like you said, there isn't that depth there. So you get a bunch of like weird positions who are in the top 10 and 15.
If they take Delane, Bain, or Downs, I'll be fine. Any of those guys work for me. The other thing we'll talk about when we get back from the break is the Bengals making a substantial trade for them. They usually don't make a move of that magnitude. We're also brought to you by the Thibodeau store.
Oh, gadgets galore. Crawfish season, grilling season. Come on, man.
Open in LaRose and Lockport as well. And lumber out of all 4 of the stores is coming on May the 1st, so we want to alert you to that. You'll be able to have delivery out of multiple stores in the chain for your lumber, all of your building supplies. Delivery, man, you want to talk about make things easier on you when you're talking about a huge amount of inventory that you can bring to your home. All of your outdoor cooking, your Cajun cookware available with a ton of accessories. Jimmy can attest to that. We're still in crawfish season. Your crawfish washers are still on special right now at all of the properties. 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. In Pierre Part Highway 70. And online, it's thethibodeaustore.com, which will get you to all 4 locations. The Thibodeau Store. Live at lunch from Chris's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
And return here at Chris's Specialty Foods. Jimmy, the Bengals move over the weekend. They had the 10th pick in the draft, and they traded to the Giants for Dexter Lawrence. One of the top defensive tackles in football, although he did not have a great statistical year last year. You and I were talking yesterday while we were watching the golf about the money that Cincinnati has put into the offensive line, that they put into some of their defensive acquisitions, although not Trey Hendrickson, and just haven't gotten the return on investment they want. This is a big jump for them. There's a lot of ways they could have gone at number 10, but Lawrence is a proven commodity. He's 28 years old. I don't think that this one didn't have Joe Burrow's fingerprints on it. This was more out of their front office. So what'd you think?
22 and 23, so that's a couple seasons ago. He was second team All-Pro, and that's top 4 defensive tackle in the NFL. And last year he had a half a sack. That doesn't mean it was a pitiful defense. They gave up all kinds of yards and points. So I would have to think that he got a lot of extra attention, looking at their defensive depth chart last year. But still, where is he? So they have to at least try to. They may miss again, but you didn't sign Hendrickson, but you give up a top 10 pick for Lawrence. I don't know.
A little bit younger, 3 years younger.
Okay, but Hendrickson's more on the edge.
Yeah.
He's a sack guy. As far as kind of a run. You need help everywhere, and including with Anarumo, they let him go. I thought it was a bad move.
He wasn't the problem.
No, he wasn't. The problem.
And expecting Al
he did a really good job.
Fix everything.
When they went to the Super Bowl, he did an excellent job piecing that thing together, man.
Yeah.
So it's just Burrow's influence as general manager and an emphasis on offense has put them in a hole on defense. And one guy's not going to turn it around, but at least they have to try and improve their defense. And it's a start.
We are at Chris's Specialty Foods, back for hour number 2. Come by and see us for lunch right across from Rufino's on Highland Road. Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Return here at Chris. Come by and see us for lunch. Jimmy, what you looking at here?
That what Chef does over here at Chris's Specialty Foods for the chef suggestions is he takes some of our products over here, kind of mixes and matches them, and then does some of his own stuff. And so we sell the Wagyu hot dogs, that you throw on the grill for for grilling season. And we're doing a Wagyu hot dog with homemade cheddar and jalapeno, cheddar and jalapeno chili with our homemade chips. So you talk about good smoked turkey for the pot pies that we do over here. So on Tuesday, chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and country gravy. On Wednesday, Thursday will be the smothered chicken, rice and gravy, and corn mac choux. Corn mac choux is one of our sides that we do over here. And then Friday, the sort of the miniature lobster fado dough, the little lobster New England style lobster roll served cold, and then a herb butter roll served cold, or a lobster grilled cheese here at Chris's Specialty Foods. That's our chef suggestions for the lunch specials this week at Chris's.
I'm thinking Wagyu chili dog. Sounds pretty good.
I already told him. Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three.
I asked him, he said,
we need one.
Come on, we got day baseball today in Fenway.
One for each.
Patriots
Day, I think.
Yeah.
America.
Okay.
Come on.
The NBA playoffs started on Saturday for real. Over the last 2 days, 7 of the home teams won game ones. Only the Magic's upset of the Pistons upset that. Jimmy, you had the Knicks on Saturday. It was a pick you gave us going out on Friday. They beat the Hawks by 11, and the Lakers minus Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves were able to take care of the Rockets on Saturday night. So biggest is biggest
Knicks. What else did I give you?
You gave me the Knicks.
I gave you 3 picks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3-0, I'm guessing.
Well, good guess.
Good guess. Phoenix.
On
They won by 100.
on Friday night.
On Friday, yeah. Not on
okay.
Sunday.
No, they could be-
Knicks on Saturday.
I got that one. Yeah,
Spurs on Sunday.
by half a point. Right.
1.5. Oh, no. 10.5. It won by 13.
13, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
1 by
2.5.
13. Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, hey, look, half a point counts just as much as a point and a half, 2 points. So, fine with that. So, thank you.
I mean, you went 3-0.
I did. I
mean, routine. Got 1 for 22, comes off the bench and hits a walk-off grand slam with 2 outs.
Oh, I'll call that. Call that. No problem. Is the Pistons the biggest story of the first 2 days, losing?
Oh, 100%. But it's also a little bit of Orlando, and it started on Friday night. Orlando's a 3.5-point underdog at home. And, I mean, they house Charlotte. Charlotte was a very fashionable pick.
Yeah.
Extremely fashionable pick. And Orlando was just, I mean, disappointment. Boncaro hates the coach. The coach is gone. It's a formality. They're going to lose to Charlotte here. They were not that competitive in the first game, of the play-in. They had 2 to win 1. And, man, they just destroyed Charlotte. I mean, destroyed them. And they follow it up. And it's the first 1-8 game in the history of the playoffs. And this was a very non-eventful opening weekend. You Saturday, Sunday quadruple headers. I mean, it was just home chalk fat. I mean, it was dull. I mean, it was very little drama. First 1-8 ever, Charlie, that the 1 seed never led. And they're obviously playing at home.
Right.
Never led.
In a game 1 or just any game?
Game 1. I think it's game 1. Game 1. But they were down 11 second half. They got 11-0 run. So they tied. So okay, here's Detroit. They're gonna take over. And what happens? Man, Orlando answers with a 14-3 run, and immediately they have their 11. I mean, from jump. And if you watch it, it wasn't flukish. No. This is a bad matchup, and it's one of these teams, and that's why I liked them in the future. It's one of these teams that really tried hard during the regular season. I mean, Cunningham, they got to collapse long to keep him out of the lineup. I mean, it kind of the Rockets last year, really emphasized trying to get that good seed, and then, man, they translate to the postseason where it's a completely different sport, and I don't know. They got. Am I overreacting to one game? Maybe so. But I remember last year in those very tight games with New York, they would go through some real scoring droughts. They would really have some issues scoring. And, man, some of the shots they hit last night were tough shots. I just think that this thing could be, a lot of people, it's just one game. I think, man, Orlando's got talent. Banchero, and Wagner, and Suggs. I mean, they got some guys. It's just they've been a major underachiever this year. Did I flipping it on at the right time? I don't know.
For a number one seed, they are not overflowing with playoff experience. They lost that series 4-2 to the Knicks last year. Before that, they hadn't had a winning season since 2016. So this is not – is it too soon for them to act like a real number one?
And look, in those home court environments, they were one where, man, they were all in. It was so – they've been losing for so long that they wanted to win. They wanted to win the regular season. They emphasized the regular season more than the postseason. That's why I have my concern. I'm being a little bit hypocritical as far as our distaste for the regular season, how pitiful it's developed to. But still, you got to be careful those teams that are all in those underachieving, those teams, less established teams who are emphasizing the regular season.
You mentioned the Rockets last year. The Cavs are one of those teams as well.
Absolutely. They were one seed last year?
They were the one seed in the East and ended up losing in the second round, the conference semis. I think it could be just they were looking ahead a little bit. Because I'll be honest, I thought Friday night, I was one of those people that was on the Hornets. I thought we'd see Jamal Mosley looking for a job on Saturday. And it turns out that he was winning games on Sunday.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise to me, and maybe it's a surprise caught the Pistons off guard a little bit.
Second biggest story after the Pistons. Is it the Lakers winning without two of their best players? Was it the blowouts yesterday from the West Heavies, the Thunder and the Spurs? What's the next biggest story?
In a very sleepy little spot, Jason Tatum looks great. A Saturday afternoon start. Non-eventful game. Phillies without Embiid. He's not expected to come back at all. But just he looks great. And that team in his absence developed a lot of other pieces. And I just think I know again, who's going to – we're not going to go crazy because it should be the heck out of the Sixers right now. I mean, the Sixers, they're not even a playoff caliber team. Maxey in the other guard is really good, but I'm just impressed. And hey, he if he's not 100%, you got me. I mean, he looks great. He really does.
You know what I saw this stat watching just an excerpt from the Celtics and the Sixers series. Since it's draft week, I thought I'd bring this up. In 2016, the Sixers had the number one draft pick in the draft, and the Celtics had the number 3 pick in the draft. The Sixers took Ben Simmons. Celtics took Jaylen Brown. The following year, Sixers had the first pick in the draft. Celtics had the 3rd pick. Sixers took Markelle Fultz. Celtics took Jason Tatum. You're drafting 2 spots behind your division rival, and you completely nail both of these picks. Mm-hmm. And the Sixers completely – I mean, I'm not going to beat them up too bad about Ben Simmons. Anybody that would have had the number 1 pick that year would have taken Ben Simmons, and, well, he, has gone by the wayside. But he was an all-star at the beginning of his career before he, fell completely off the planet.
Absolutely. He was still a very good player. He was an excellent defender. I mean, for a guy that's 6'11", that can, with agile like that, he was. And before they finally figured him out, I forget what NBA analyst or coach said it. He says, he can score, he just can't shoot. Because they were playing him too honest.
Tell me that because it was Hubie Brown might have said that. That sounds like Hubie.
Because he take, if you guard him honestly, he's still going to get to the rim.
Yeah.
And he shot free throws okay. But, I mean, once they sagged, there's all them, no, we'll let you just take he couldn't even knock down a mid-range jumper. But it took him for the first couple of years, he was a really good player. And, I mean, a ton of assists. I mean, so – No, it's easy to beat him down. He just never worked on the weakness of his game. Not even. look, I mean, not at all. But no, it's good. I don't know.
They just nailed it so much, and they got a title to show for it. May have more than that before the time these guys are done.
Yes, the storyline. I hate to be the generic guy here. I hate to be, midday ESPN TV coverage, but it's the Lakers, isn't it?
Oh.
I mean, the Lakers who
Without
were the
Reeves
only
and
home
without
underdog in this game, and when the TV schedule came out, I don't know if you saw this, Jimmy, the TV schedule for the Lakers this series is absurdly obvious what they are trying to do. They have stretched this series out as long as possible just to see if Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves can return. And now that they have Game 1, the chance of them coming back in Game 4, Game 5 is very interesting if the series were to go a little bit longer than maybe I expected. And certainly if they won Game 1, it's already maybe going differently than I would have thought.
Well, I'll tell you this. When I saw, and I didn't watch any of the game, and we all get sick of the LeBron 24/7 that ESPN gives us. But when you have injury, and so when I went to the box score, I expected to see that James had put up one of these, kind of, clutch performances, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists or something like that. And then I look in there and find out that they got 27 points out of Luke Kennard, who has scored 27 points in a game how many times this season? 0. Okay, so you get 27 points out of Luke Kennard. Yeah, okay.
Got a late scratch from Kevin Durant, who, by the way, I mean, he's not a load management type of guy. So that was kind of even the level of the playing field. The line reflected that as well, but especially what Durant was brought in. I mean, even Barkley watching the Rockets says, man, these guys got to go spend some time in the offseason in the gym. They need to shoot. I mean, because they're so good defensively.
They don't even want to play during the regular season. You want them to practice in the offseason too?
He was talking about their team is they won a lot of games last year, but when the level of defense increases, there's some guys that can't just get to the rim. You gotta hit some shots. They are not a good shooting team. That's why they brought Durant in. He isn't one of the best shooters in the history of the game, and so to not have him all for this point is it's a curveball. But Max is right. When this is not the first or last time that things that can be moved, that maneuverable things in the NBA are moved in their favor. So. We've seen that before.
Luke Kennard's career high going in the game was 30 in a regular season game. It was against the Rockets in 2023 with the Grizzlies.
Yeah, 3 years ago. It's been since he scored this many points.
And he shows up in the playoffs and scores 27. I certainly didn't see that one coming.
But they were the story because they were the one underdog that had won for what time? But it was a home team. So they were still home team.
Only home dog.
And that kept it Friday night, 2-0 home teams. Saturday, 4-0. It was an 8-0 run. And then you split the last two. 9-1 home teams won straight up and covered. Until the only one is Orlando. At Detroit on last night. Don't forget our friends Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime, my law firm for a lifetime, Charlie's law firm for a lifetime. You can give them a call at 343-1111 or go to their website, ocbrown.com. You're not sure if you need legal representation? Take advantage of that initial consultation. It is free. You pull up the website at ocbrown.com, big box on the main page, and just click on that and schedule your time. Or you can call us up and schedule it as well. Traffic accidents, whatever you don't know. We'll sit down, evaluate your situation. If you're entitled to something, we will pursue it. If it's kind of a waste of time, we'll let you know. We'll evaluate it with our different specialists that specialize in all areas of law. I've used Dana for all areas of legal assistance in different times at different stages of our lives and for different reasons. Downtown Dana Brown, 343-1111 at ocbrown.com.
Live at Chris's Specialty Foods, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road. Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. Three best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
Troy, we apologize. We thank you for adjusting your schedule to accommodate us today, and it is draft week.
Yeah, man. Exciting times. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors season, but I pride myself as a college guy. Obviously college basketball more, but I certainly love college football. And this is kind of like graduation. It's certainly I follow the NFL, but for all the passion and effort we put into covering college sports, this is one of the last times you really get to focus in on these guys as you know it. As they make the leap to the next step. So I've always been a huge fan of drafts. I kind of wish the NFL went back to just having it all on Saturday. That was my favorite, one of my favorite events of the spring. But I do geek out over the draft.
Well, they the menu is widening. So we're looking at Bet Rivers. You got the first pick, second pick, all the the top 10 picks, overall picks, top picks by the different how many player to be drafted in the top 5, players to be drafted top 10, players to be drafted in the first round. So you got a lot of things going on there. Position specials like first wide receiver taken. Carnell Tate is minus 210 and Tyson plus 140. So the menu is widening now. Total quarterbacks taken in the first round, receivers, running backs, and so on. So anything that we're getting a lot of a handle on, or that you like.
Yeah. So this is a weak quarterback class, obviously, and so the focus has shifted to some other positions, namely wide receivers. Now, I don't know if it's a world-class class, so to speak, but there are, some notable names, and we've taken a decent amount of tickets on first wide receiver to be drafted. It's basically up between Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson. And a lot of tickets, there's a $1,000 bet out there on Jordan Tyson at 6-1 to be the first NFL draft at wide receiver taken. We have a lot of tickets on Carnell Tate. An interesting one that I kind of forget about every year, but we do take a lot of tickets on this market, and that's first offensive lineman drafted. Obviously, premier position. There's usually about 3 or 4 guys at that position that are going to be taken in the top 5 or so. And if I had to guess, that's probably from a position of first drafted. We've probably taken the most tickets on that position, more than wide receiver, more than cornerback, more than quarterback. So that is, and I remember at least 2 years ago it was the same, but I forget because we don't focus on the linemen. But I always do like to see that.
I like the over-unders, for the different ones. Those we always see a lot of flexibility there. Charlie, what you think Delane is at right now? His over/under.
I would set Delane's total at probably 8.5 or 9.
10.5.
Okay.
10.5. So just right there. Bain 8.5. Now you got some juice involved in as well. So Jeremiah Love 4.5.
Tougher.
You're in NFC East area, Troy, and the Scatterboo injury. Some things coming back. Have you heard about that? That they went through some evaluations and saw that he had maybe experienced a lot of concussions that kind of went undetected for a while. That really have them concerned, because even with his ACL, it looked like, man, they had their little triplets going, man. With the quarterback, running back, and receiver, all very, very young, and they, of course, 2 of the 3 got hurt.
Right, and the quarterback was also susceptible to concussions. The news I saw this weekend was actually about their new head coach, and that I think it was Dave Flowers, the Ravens wide receiver, saying, part of the reason that the Ravens were always banged up is because John Harbaugh ran a super physical practice, and they were hitting a ton, and guys were getting banged up and injured during practice. That's not great when you have a quarterback and running back with concussion issues and a stud wide receiver with, knee and leg issues, and who's taken a beating. I mean, there were a couple games where he just got, beaten all around. So, and I like the young nucleus that the Giants have from a skill position standpoint, but they got to stay healthy. Jeremiah Love is super interesting because there are a lot of teams that need skill positions. We talked last week about running backs and how, maybe 4 running backs aren't going in the first round, but it's still a premier position. If there is a guy who's great or amazing, I thought the market on Ashton Genty was a bit too high last year, but I really like Jeremiah Love. The one interesting thing from a draft standpoint is, like, instead of, I would not play the draft number market, like player to be picked 5th overall and take Jeremiah Love there. I'd rather go to a Jeremiah Love market and pick the team that's going to draft him, because the Commanders may draft him. They may trade up 2 spots, and if you have him in a pick to go number 7 overall, well, he may go to the Commanders. It just might be at 5 if they trade up or something like that. So there is, with all these markets, there's reason to sometimes go to one market and not the other, because it gives you a little bit of cushion in a news-based event where teams will trade up and go and get their guys, as we saw, with the Texans did a couple years ago. Obviously, what the Falcons did as well with Penix.
To me, of course, predicting trades are very, very tricky, and you waste a lot of time doing it. But this one really makes sense, because they got to give a ready-made weapon for Jaden Daniels. Tennessee, I mean, sort of the love affair with Jeremiah Love seems to be sort of a head fake. I mean, where they need so many. I mean, they are so far away from the last piece of the puzzle and getting a premier running back. I mean, it'd be such a waste to put him. Yeah. Understand, Cam? Their young quarterback, Cam Ward, they want to give him some weapons too, but they got to give him a lot of supporting cast in a lot of different areas. They're so far away. So that would kind of make sense to me, Charlie, for them to move up. And, man, Tennessee, I mean, everybody wants to move down. Everybody, especially teams that got so far to go.
The thing is, if you want to guarantee that you're going to get Love, you might have to go up in front of Tennessee. You may have to go to 3 with the Cardinals, which they're willing to trade down. So that works too. And Troy, this is a good time to ask you, when does the action cut off? Being able to play these things, because we watch some of this stuff play out on draft night. When is action due on really any of these markets? Teams, over, unders, etc.
Oh, usually it's like Wednesday morning, so maybe overnight between Tuesday and Wednesday, because, as we've discussed in the past, it's so news heavy, and that's really when the smoke and mirrors and the anonymous scouts and things, if they're not already present, really, ramp up. So it's usually about 24 hours in advance for a lot of these markets.
You're seeing today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. You see some crazy movement in the odds.
Right.
I mean, it's coming. It's coming.
Look after Paolo Banchero. When that thing happened, I think we pretty much guaranteed.
Well, it's more consolidated,
it
with the NBA draft. And you got a little bit. This is a little bit more variance to it. The thing is, though, I mean, I was looking at players to be. Offensive players to be drafted over. He was minus 110 last night. It's minus 175 right now. So, I mean, it's just a lot. Max, what other movements have you seen?
Jeremiah Love at number 3 moved significantly. I was trying to find the number from last night, but I think I saw like 719 to 1 for him to go 3rd overall, and I'm now seeing that like plus 150 reports with Schefter and stuff.
That's a little bit of move.
So, I mean, I was doing research last night, and a lot has moved in the last 12 hours.
What type of human element to sort of trying to adjust these things to this information-based market, Troy? What are you guys looking like with that?
Well, it's been the best thing for bettors to hear, but the most human element for a lot of these news-based changes is to pull markets down and let the news play out and see how the dust settles and then put it back up. It is out of our control, a lot of this stuff. So it's really, not just from a liability standpoint, certainly that is there, not wanting to stick our neck out there too much with strong odds, but also it is silly season. Like, what news can you trust? What news can't you trust? And that weighs a lot into it. Obviously, with this, our automation and algorithms, but a lot. You will see markets get pulled and go back up in 30 or 45 minutes. Just as you would when there's a big trade or a big injury during the season, but it's consolidated to, 2 or 3 days.
How was the handle in the NBA over the weekend for the opening round, the opening games of these 8 series?
Oh, very good. Very, very good. Between the Pistons game, the Spurs game, and the Rockets and Lakers game, those we took very big handles. I mean, we had dozens of bets in mid six figures, which is not a rarity, but it can be uncommon. And we took very many, and a lot of them hit. We took 260,000 on the Pistons live on the Spurs minus 11.5 against the Trailblazers. We had a $230,000 bet on the Rockets plus 2.5 that lost to the Lakers. It's been very good thus far. Interesting to see how it plays out. There'll be some really long lines, I think, especially like I saw something where like the Sixers are like plus 16.5 or something, and it makes it really tough to bet because I envision some of these series being a little bit more lopsided, but at least for the first few games to get people back in the flow, we've seen a lot of big bets. And I think that the Pistons and the Spurs are the two teams that people really have their eyes on, obviously other than the Lakers with LeBron, but like those two, especially the Spurs, are the future, and the Pistons have done everything right. They're the number one seed. We're going to take a lot of money on those two teams.
The obvious thing, Charlie, we talked about for years and years, nothing new about this or the history. What's the biggest difference from the regular season to the postseason in the NBA?
Everybody's playing, and everybody's playing hard, and they're playing defense.
Playing defense. 7-1 to the unders, Troy. Did they get on that under trend this past weekend? It's one of my favorites. The first game to go, blanket under in all of them. Of course, I didn't do it. I didn't practice what I preached this weekend. But 7-1 to the under.
Yeah, so we're seeing the percentages come down. It hasn't shifted to like 80% of the tickets and money on the under. But, typically in the NBA, it's about 80% to the over, and we're seeing around 60s, 50s, similar to like the Super Bowl. Everything is going to be in the margins of 55 to 60, where, in regular season games, you'll see percentages of 75 to 80, 85. It tightens up. Now, if the trend continues aggressively, you will see a big shift. But, that then it comes into account, what series are going 7 games, with where there's a lopsided result, and then there's the team is flat and they give up. So very interesting. But we did see an adjustment. People coming back to earth and not aggressively betting overs, which I'm an unders bettor, so I like this time of year.
There you go. Those lines will be adjusted a little bit. See, they lower them. They're lower than the regular season, but the adjustment in the totals are not the adjustments that we see on the court as far as levels of a defensive intensity. Follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Macker. That's MACHIR. Draft night. He'll be posting stuff again as sort of big hits and things like that. But the menu is quite extensive, though. It is opening up now. 16 different players got over-under draft position right now for the NFL draft. So real good menu at Bet Rivers. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Live at lunch here at Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road. We're also brought to you by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, helping you deal with pain. Dr. Michael Goff and his staff done a great job for our family over the years. So if you've got back pain, you've got muscle soreness, things that are restricting your motion, things that just hurt, man, look, they will find out exactly where those problem areas are. They'll target them with the type of therapy that you need, whether it be a simple exercise and stretching program that can loosen things up, or cryotherapy, dry needling, ultrasound therapy. Whatever it takes, they're going to get you to feeling better. Airline Highway, Plank Road, Jefferson Highway near Drusilla, Dr. Michael Goff, Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. Live at lunch here at Chris's Specialty Foods, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Come by and see us for lunch here at Chris's Specialty Foods. The NFL draft on Thursday night. We'll see LSU's Mansour Delane as the first Tiger off the board. Who the next Tiger off the board will be interesting. My guess is A.J. Halsey, but I'm not going to discount that on day number 2 we're going to see Garrett Nussmeier come off the board at some point. Max, there's a report from the NFL Network that we once again have another explanation about Garrett Nussmeier's injury.
Yeah, Tom Pelissero, good reporter for the NFL Network, put it out this morning that Nussmeier underwent some tests at the Combine that would end up revealing a cyst on his spine, which he claims is the root cause of the persistent oblique pain that derails his season. The cyst was pressing on a nerve, causing discomfort in his oblique. He has been asymptomatic since just prior to the Senior Bowl, but if that changes down the road, he could undergo a minimally invasive procedure that would just have a 2 to 3 week timeline for the stitches to heal. So interesting to hear that maybe the oblique injury that he was dealing with comes from a cyst on his spine and a spinal nerve rather than the oblique muscle itself.
I don't know if I have ever heard more explanations for one injury to any player in any sport in my life than I have heard explanations going back to last August on what exactly the hell was wrong with Garrett Nussmeier.
Sure. Been a lot of them out there. It's a little strong, a little hyperbolic, but go ahead.
Well, you give me another one. I mean,
No, that's
I
true.
was- I was
I'm
reminded
short
that-
right now, but it's a little strong.
I was reminded of the Miles Brennan core injury just because that was apparently a unique
Flip-flop?
injury. Another
Flip-flop, no flip-flop on
This
the
was
boat.
this was on the field when he got hit at Missouri.
yeah. But you know what? They figured out what that was, and it was a rare thing that had
Sure.
happened to him. This. Maybe it was just because Kelly was protecting him, or maybe it was because they didn't want to release something for strategic reasons or whatever. But
That would be the first.
I mean, I've
Kelly
heard
Kelly was the least strategic, the least stressed, the least paranoid I've ever covered in modern-day college football.
Except when it came to Nussmeier. You know, you're watching him throw a towel at practice, and they're saying, "Oh, no, it's just it's precautionary, whatever." I mean, how many different explanations have we had about exactly what was ailing him and how bad it was?
If it was the cyst, it might explain a little bit of why there was so much confusion because, to me, as I read that, it would be very much a pain tolerance thing. And if they were looking in his ab, his oblique, in his core, and they were misdiagnosing it, they might not have seen anything. It might have kept coming back clean, and they might not have understood why some days it was pain, but it was if it was in fact a spinal cyst that was causing all this issue, then that would be sort of a pain tolerance thing, and that might fluctuate, which makes even less sense why he would have played the Southeastern game. But nevertheless,
I'm not even blaming anybody.
Spines and nerves, man. That's and backs. I mean, that's not pain tolerance.
And he shouldn't have played the Southeastern game. We said that at the time.
And Kelly, I couldn't believe it when he said that. I think we might even been here on a Monday. I'm like, what?
Because it was contradictory. We said it's contradictory, saying, well, this is not going to really heal for another few weeks, but we need him to play. No, that didn't make any sense at the time. I'm not even suggesting that there's anything sinister to this. Misdiagnosis happens. Sometimes you can think you know what it is and it doesn't improve. Like, why does this hurt? Well, we think it's this. Well, maybe it's not. But this has been going on for 8 months now. If you're going back to the beginning of this 8-9 months, we get a different thing at the Senior Bowl. We get a different thing at the Combine. Now, is this different completely from what we got at the Combine? Because I've heard something like this before.
Charlie hadn't had enough. He wants more information.
I do. I'd like to be able to understand. Huh? Well, I'd like to be able to understand what the nature of the problem. I'm sure the NFL does too.
Yeah, can they tell us what vertebrae this was?
Well, before we try to figure out where the guy's going to get drafted, because he's probably going to be, the third or fourth quarterback off the board after Mendoza and Simpson. We don't know where he might go. The Rams would be a good spot for him. Pittsburgh. Oh, by the way, Jimmy, Aaron Rodgers hasn't informed Pittsburgh whether he's going to play or not next season, so they may be looking for a quarterback.
Let me know when he doesn't dramatize something.
Yeah, that information.
The draft is in Pittsburgh. He could upstage the whole thing,
He could.
He's not upstage. He's not any good anymore.
Is he on vacation somewhere?
He's very limited.
He tried upstage.
He's traveling abroad somewhere.
Will Howard. It's interesting.
I've heard good things from
they
like
seem to like him.
And I was a fan of his in college.
A pretty good supporting cast, pretty good weapons to deal with.
You saw Will Howard play at two different
colleges. You telling me that guy from Syracuse couldn't have lit it up that year, coming back for another year.
Yeah.
I think that was I think he's a little bit limited for a pro quarterback, but we'll see. I think part of that might be to try and light a fire under this, this drama queen and Rodgers. I mean, they got to be getting tired of that. That's not an organization that loves that kind of crap.
Some of the
New
fans
coach
are.
too.
Oh, you think some of the fans are? Well, I mean,
new coach too. That's his old coach, right? So
yeah. Let's get to another playoff appearance that we can't compete in.
Yeah,
I mean, when have they even been close in a playoff game?
New coach now, new attitude towards him. Certainly, they know each other. Going back to Green Bay, so I would think that they would be, whether Rodgers plays next year or not, I would think they would be in the market for a quarterback.
How do you think he played last year? It's okay.
Okay.
But, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. But another year, he's going to be just a little bit
A
less.
year older.
I mean, yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
Even his last season in Green Bay was a good one. But then he got hurt with the Jets. The second season with the Jets was just okay. The first season with the Steelers was just okay. He's 42 years old.
Very average and getting older.
And he's expensive. Not as expensive as he used to be, but he's still expensive. I would think Pittsburgh would be looking to draft a quarterback.
What did they give up? I mean, what did they pay for him the last couple of years?
Last year in Pittsburgh, I think it was 1 year for $10 or $12 million.
That's a starting quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. He's a lot cheaper than he used to be. He used to be
for an average quarterback. No, that's a bargain. That's a bargain.
I'm doing that out of my head. Max, am I right?
1 year, 13.6.
13 million. Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
off that. I wasn't off that. No, you're right. That is below.
$10 million guaranteed. So that's what you're remembering.
If he shows, wouldn't you draft a quarterback if you were Pittsburgh in the middle rounds?
Yeah. I mean, Aller came in for a visit, a workout. I mean, he's a guy that
Aller, Nussmeier, Carson Beck. You like any of these guys?
Green.
Taylor Green. Taylor Green turned some heads in Mobile. He had some kind of wild moments. I mean, he is.
If he develops as a passer, he would
how do you
be
think
such
what kind
a
of passer he's
dynamic.
been? He's got a ton
weapon.
of starts,
Yeah.
a ton.
Almost right at 50,
Okay,
I think.
and I've seen guys that threw it that didn't throw it as good as him that were brought in as quarterbacks. I think he's got a mid-round pick. He's got a chance to be something.
Cole Payton.
I mean, he could fly.
I would rather take a chance on him because
Poor man's
it just
Jaden
does-
Daniels. He could fly, Charles. He's
Yeah,
never
no,
been as fast as Daniels.
and he's probably 2 inches taller, maybe 3 inches taller.
Now, he can't throw it like Daniels. He's not as
He's
accurate. Never going to
no.
be. He's never going to
Makes
be.
But he has enough
Terrible.
arm.
But-
He's a strong enough arm. It's just not an accurate arm.
He's, and come on, man. Arkansas, he didn't have a whole lot of ton weapons there.
No, I always
he didn't
describe him
have
as the scariest guy that you play against in the SEC because he at any time he could bust runs that almost nobody else could do.
Where is Aller? All those measurables that everybody's talking about so high, so why wouldn't he be worth, if you believe that, his measurables are that because he tore his ACL? He's fine. He's not a guy that depends on his shake, as far as that's not his game. So if you had him that high on your board, how are you not interested in him in a middle round pick now?
I think Aller and Carson Beck are both going to go in either the 4th or the 5th round.
Whether it's Rodgers, whether they draft a quarterback, whatever, plus 140 to draft an O-lineman first. I don't see how the Steelers don't draft an O-lineman first, to be honest. I think that's immense value. I think where they are in the middle rounds, they're going to draft an offensive tackle. I'm very confident in that.
I mean, you got a young quarterback, and if you think Dart is your guy, all right. Now, you going to protect him or give him weapons? The weapons are banged up, but he did have weapons. But he has already gotten bruised up, and just like Burrow, he's not Burrow, but something about him, and I'm wrong on him because when he gets in the game, the offense just breathes. It has a chance. I mean, he even with some limited pieces around him, protect him.
Steelers
protect
have
him.
21st pick in the first round. They will have their choice. They'll probably be, I would say, Max, two, maybe 3 linemen off the board at that point with another 3 or 4 to go.
You've got Iheanacho in there. You've got Lomu. You've got a lot of guys who could fall there.
If the coach can't get through to him to protect himself and slide, listen to that girl you brought to the Ward's banquet. She can convince him, huh? I'm not as sold on it.
You remain impressed with her.
Oh, gee, Charlie.
Well,
I mean,
she was impressive. I got it.
Yeah, so we're over here at Chris's Specialty Foods. Again, if you're hitting Jazz Fest this weekend or next, we will be there by the main stage doing the pork and chicken crackling. So always a fun time over at the Jazz Fest. So we did the St. Patrick's Day Parade here. We did the Champions Day at the fairgrounds. So Chris's food truck, again, on site for the Jazz and Heritage Festival this weekend and next at the fairgrounds in New Orleans. Don't forget our friends at Total Maintenance, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating company since 1980. That little cold spell last night, yesterday, and today. It was nice, really nice, but it ain't lasting long. So your unit breaks down, you got to call our friends over at Total Maintenance. 480-1000. You call today, you get service today. Service today every day means same-day service means you will never sleep hot. 480-1000. My buddy Lucas Ragusa and his great team. They service both New Orleans and Baton Rouge, but have separate staffs and offices so they're not compromised in each. 480-1000 if your unit breaks down today. Total Maintenance.
Live at Chris's Specialty Foods, live at Lunch 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Yanni. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Back here at Chris's Live at Lunch. Odell Beckham back in the building in New York with the Giants as some momentum building that he could rejoin the team that drafted him. By the way, with the pick that they got for trading Odell Beckham to Cleveland the first time they took Dexter Lawrence, who they traded this weekend, so a little bit ironic there. Jimmy, we got 3 games tonight in the NBA, 3-game twos, Raptors, Cavs, Hawks, Knicks, T-Wolves, and the Nuggets.
Toronto, Cleveland was close for about a half and then just blown out. So Toronto really not very competitive in the second half. Hawks were hanging around, but, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, they just don't have any answer for him. Especially, he had 25 and I forget how many rebounds and assists, but and didn't have that. He was kind of a little bit off. I mean, he is going to be a major problem, even if you're looking at individual props and things like that. And the T-Wolves did threaten. They got a little nasty. They got Denver's attention. Anthony Edwards is a little less than 100%, but they were the one team that I was surprised. That thing was a 2-point game very late before they pulled away and still covered.
Thanks to Chris's Specialty Foods for being our host today. Tomorrow we're at Mike Anderson's. From all of us here and Jordan back in the studio, have a great afternoon, everybody, and stay tuned for Hunt on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.